So if you're clicking on this video, then I'm pretty sure that at least some way or another, you like games. You might just be a casual gamer who gets on, after work or after school. You could even be a hardcore gamer. For as much as I know, whatever you are, I think it's pretty easy to assume that just like me, you enjoy games for entertainment. I used to be the type of kid that would only play games like Call of Duty, and I also played a lot of Destiny. And if you know what's going on with Destiny, we're not gonna talk about that. But over the past 2 years, I've really broadened my my gaming library, which is something I never really thought I would do. For the first time this year, I played a Diablo game. Diablo 4 is not on my game of the year list, but it was pretty high up there. And I also played my first ever Final Fantasy with Final Fantasy 16, and that game is one of my favorite games of all time. That game is absolutely incredible. But with broadening my horizon of games, I think one of my favorite gaming experiences is this cute little indie called Cult of the Lamb. After this, I think it's fair to say that I enjoy being a cult leader. No, yeah, I'll stop with the dad jokes. Anyways, in more seriousness, I really truly did enjoy this game. This isn't a game where you just pick it up for a few hours and stop. I played this game for a long period of time, a couple weeks at a time, like max. To give you guys some clarification, I originally bought this game when it first came out on PC, beat it, and then when the DLC got announced, I bought the collector's edition for the PS5 of the game, and I platinumed it, including DLC. It was really that good for me. This isn't exactly going to be a full-on game review. This is going to be where I sit down and tell you what the game is, why I enjoyed it, and why I think you should pick it up. So, bit of background about how I even found this game. As I mentioned earlier in the video, I am an extremely big fan of Destiny. Kinda to a point where it's almost a problem. But when I was getting ready for school in the mornings during high school, I would play this podcast called the DCP Live, and the hosts on there sometimes talk about some random stuff. And one of the podcasts, they had mentioned that there was a Steam's Next Fest going on. And if you don't know what Steam's Next Fest is, pretty much they highlight indies for you to try their demos, or just to kind of push some of the indies out there that you wouldn't really see. And one of the co-hosts, Miss 5000 Watts, was talking about this game that she had played and just fell in love with. And some of the other co-hosts even talked about it themselves. And with some of the influencers that I looked up to all praising the game, I was just like, fuck it, why not download it? And so I went and I downloaded it that night, and to say the least, I came out of that play session and they had my money. It wasn't a question. I played 2 hours of it and I wanted more. I fell in love with it. So I went from checking out the demo to pre-ordering the game to eventually playing the game when it came out, right? I put about 25 hours to it on PC. I didn't 100% it on PC, to be fair. I didn't do everything that you could possibly do. I beat the game. I did some of the extra side stuff that you could do, and that was pretty much it. And then I think it was in April of this year, I think it was the Nintendo Direct, they came out and were like, hey, we're releasing a free DLC. And so I pre-ordered, or I didn't pre-order, I bought the collector's edition for the PS5, and I replayed it again, platinumed the main game, and then I went and I platinumed the DLC. So with me going from only about 2 games to fully branching out and coming back to Cult of the Lamb, I still think it holds up. I still think it's one of my favorite games of all time. So if we're gonna talk about how much I love this game, I at least gotta explain to you guys what it is and why you should get it. I think the easiest way to describe it is if Binding of Isaac and Animal Crossing just had a baby. Simple terms, that's pretty much what it is. Pretty much the game starts out that you are a lamb, you have been brought before 4 gods, and they're like, hey, we're trying to avoid a prophecy, and so we're just gonna slaughter you, dude, because lambs are in the prophecy, so we're gonna slaughter you. Little did they know, they literally brought you to the one fucking thing that they were trying to avoid. And so you come before this godlike being called the One Who Waits, and he's pretty much like, hey, I'll resurrect you, I'll give you powers if you start a cult in my name. And you're just like, sure, whatever, dude, fine with me. And so that's pretty much how the game starts. So with the story kind of stuff out of the way, the main gimmick of the game or gameplay is going on expeditions or hunts. They're kind of, I don't know what they're necessarily called. I'm pretty sure they're called expeditions. But basically, this is where the Binding of Isaac portion of this game comes in. You're going from room to room. You're gaining materials. You're fighting enemies. You're looking for rooms that have kind of these cards around them. They are called tarot cards. And basically, that's your modifiers for how things work. They kind of range from increasing your overall damage to bumping up your damage depending on the time of day it is, adding certain things when you roll, changing how weapons work, increasing the fever dropped, all this and that fancy stuff. That's pretty much how you get your modifiers for how the runs work. So each time you start one of these expeditions, you are given a different weapon and a different ability. Throughout the hunts, you will be killing enemies which drop fever, and fever will allow you to use the extra abilities. And the weapon, you have a light attack, and then in the free DLC, which gave gameplay updates to the rest of the game, added each weapon to have its own heavy attack, which I think really added to the combat. I think before the DLC, the combat was kind of simple. I wouldn't say simple, but it wasn't evolved. Like it feels a lot more thorough and almost like they really improved it just by adding that one mechanic. Now you'll go through the expeditions, you'll gain materials like grass, seeds to make food, coins. This is also how you kind of get some of the other NPCs that'll kind of help you explain the story a bit more, I guess. And then you'll also gain followers through doing the expeditions. And then of course, at the end, you pretty much have mini bosses or main bosses, depending on where you're at in the story. And then you go back home. Now, when you get back home to your cult, this is where it becomes Animal Crossing. At first, things kind of start off slow. You have to chop down your own trees. You have to mine your own stone. You have to build your own buildings. But the more followers you get, the more they'll start doing those tasks. And so your whole gimmick of the game is to go down the hunt, get more followers, so then you can build and upgrade your cult and all this stuff. Now, also at this point of the game, when you get the followers, they'll have faith. And so this is one of the three kind of systems or like bars that you have during the cult that you need to keep high. If the faith drops, they won't do anything. They pretty much are like, yeah, dude, we hate you. We're not doing a damn thing for you. So in order to keep that up, you need to perform daily sermons, or you can perform rituals, which you earn through one of the many different skill trees that are in the game. Yes, this game has skill trees, but it's not bad. So you go through, you perform the rituals, or you perform the sermons, either one. Sermons can only be done once a day, by the way. And basically that keeps your faith up. The other two systems are hunger, which is pretty easy. You make food for your followers, and once you get to a certain point during like one of the skill trees, you'll make it to where you can assign a chef to the cookout station. So then you just put in what you're gonna make, and then they'll make it for you. And then the second or the third final bar is, I guess it's technically called sickness, pretty much. So followers can just use the bathroom wherever the fuck they want. And so you need to go clean it up, or you need to set up a bathroom system so then you can go collect their, feces and stuff after. And pretty much you're doing that. You're picking up throw up, you're putting followers to bed rest, and that kind of solves that bar. You can use the feces for fertilizer, which is why it's in the game in general, but that's the basic gimmick of that and how that works. So you're going through expeditions, doing all that stuff, getting followers, doing that stuff, and then you're over here performing tasks for your cult, upgrading your cult, making it look better, making it run faster, and just more efficient. So I'm not really gonna go into the skill trees of the game. Basically, you have devotion that the followers can give you, when you're doing sermons or rituals, or there'll be a statue that you get eventually in the game where they could just pray to you. And so you collect the devotion, which allows you to upgrade the cult in some of the cult buildings and trees and all this and that. So you can get a new statue that holds more devotion. You can upgrade the farm. You can upgrade the beds so they're sturdier, and to the point where they're invincible. You don't have to mess with them anymore. Things like a bathroom, a morgue for your followers when they die, burial sites, you can send them on expeditions as well to gather resources, all that fun stuff. There's also a skill tree to where you gain new weapons, not only weapons, but types of weapons like Bane, which adds poison to stuff. There's, I think, merciless type of weapons, which I think are increased damage or have a higher critical chance. Things like that nature. That also allows you to get the heavy attack, allows for more fever or more of the abilities that you can use, upgrading your health, that sort of thing. And then there's also commandments, which allow you to learn the rituals or give each of the followers traits. So for example, there's a trait that you can learn that'll give them grass eater. So basically what that does is it allows them to eat grass and have no negative side effect, which is pretty good because grass is easily found. And if you don't give a fuck about feeding your followers, simple way to go, done with. So when it comes through progressing the main story, it's pretty simple. Your main goal is to build up a cult and get revenge on the gods that try to kill you in the beginning, and forming tasks that the one who awaits wants you to do. Now, each of the gods have their own unique 4 locations, or I guess they're biomes, but they're kind of locations. There's unique enemies in there. There's unique mini bosses. There's unique resources, and eventually you'll get to the main boss. So you'll run through each biome about 5 times. You have to kill 4 of the mini bosses to finally unlock the main boss. And then when you kill the main boss, and if you have the follower requirement, then you get to go on the next biome. And of course, that's all I'm really going to explore in the story. It's not a hard story to follow. And honestly, if you really wanted to zone out, you could. It's a pretty simple story. But DLC does add some replayability and some things to the story that I'm not really going to spoil. But it just adds on, and eventually there'll be a second DLC which should add on even more. So what do I enjoy about this game? Why am I recommending you this game? This is the first ever roguelike game I think I've tried technically. I think the main reason I really enjoy this game is the fact that it's pretty unique. Now, that's not to say that it's inventive in a new way. Like I said, it takes heavy inspiration from Binding of Isaac and Animal Crossing. So like it takes mechanics from those games and some of the progression systems from some of the other roguelikes too. But I think what really makes it unique is just taking those 2 genres and combining them. Like if you would have told me that it was Binding of Isaac and Animal Crossing, I would have been like, you're fucking crazy, dude. I'm not playing this. But it works together to the point where I wish there was more roguelikes like this. Like it just feels great. It feels incredible to play. Now, I have gone through and played some of the other roguelikes like Hades and Risk of Rain 2, and I really enjoyed my experiences with those games. But this game, I feel like just has a better progression system. Even when I fail in this game, I feel like I'm moving forward. Like I'm not, like what I'm doing is important and what I'm doing is worth it. And I feel like those games sometimes not necessarily miss, but it's hard to tell the progression in those games when you die and it feels like you just make nothing. Now, since branching out, I have found that the king of indies is definitely Devolver Digital. So now I'm to the point where if I see that they publish any game, I'm trying it, dude. Like they know how to find hidden gems, and when I see that they publish a game, they don't really have to push for it. Like if I see their name, they're like, oh yeah. Just like Insomniac or Naughty Dog and Santa Monica, like those game studios, it's almost a guarantee that I'll buy them, and Devolver Digital is the same. Or at least that I would try their game. I don't like all of Devolver Digital's games, but I'm at least interested just based off of the name that's tied to the publisher. So I really recommend that you guys give this game a try. This game is literally $25. Like it's an indie. It's not going to be full price, and it goes on sale quite a bit. They do have some extra add-ons that are mainly like cosmetics. Actually, I think they're all cosmetics. So you don't need to buy anything else than just the game. They're indie developers, so of course you probably know they don't get paid as much as some of the upper tier game developers, but man, they really deserve it. These guys made a phenomenal game. Actually, I really think that this game would be good on a handheld. I want to say it is on the Switch, but I know for sure it's on the Steam Deck. Like, this game would just be incredible to play if you're like on an airplane ride or in the car or just laying on the couch, just want to play something. This is one of those games that if you really just wanted to numb your mind and just play something cute and fun, I would recommend this game. It's not gonna make you mad. It's not hard necessarily. When you get to the DLC and get to some of the replayability stuff, it gets harder. Or if you just want to crank up the difficulty, it's harder that way too. But if you just want a game to just, I don't know, play when you're on a car ride or something, this would be a great option for you. I'm gonna be honest, I really don't feel like I could justify why you should try this game. Like, this game's just, it feels like no matter what I say, it doesn't praise it enough. Like, I go on Twitter and I see them post all the time about fan art and pushing creators and stuff out there too. And it's just a welcoming community. It's so fun. I know they have a crossover with like Don't Starve. And I want to say there's another mobile game that they've done a crossover with. You know, even after beating the main story, you know, there's a whole free DLC that's out. It does add some story stuff, not major like story stuff. Is, I guess it's your typical like roguelike story stuff, but it adds in a whole, it revamps all the biomes, changes the enemy, adds some new environmental stuff like spikes and some other things like that, revamps all the mini bosses, and then it adds in this purgatory mode, which allows you to get some of the other commandments, and it even like gives you a necklace for one of your followers that makes them immortal. It gives some of those things. So it adds a lot of replayability, which I think is really well needed in this game. That was my major complaint with the game, is I didn't really feel like at the beginning that there was any replayability, especially after you beat the main story, because then there's nothing really to do in each of the biomes. And this is still a problem. At the beginning of each day, it kind of, not jitters, but it stops. Like the frame rate hella drops. So that's something to keep an eye out on. I'm sure they're looking into it. I'm sure that I'm not the only person to complain about it, but man, from the features that the DLC adds, like the weapons, the replayability stuff, the new mechanics, I didn't even get into curses, which just added a whole nother factor to the randomization of the roguelike stuff. I really just want to recommend you guys this game. For my own personal experience, I love games, especially this year, an amazing year we've had. I've really been trying to branch out and play some of the other games. For example, I'm playing Control in the original Alan Wake right now. So you guys are going to get a video on that eventually. And yeah, man, just been a banger year for games. And I really wanted to come out here and shed some light on an indie that I love and that I think you guys should play. This has been Sir UD and my unwanted opinion. I'll see you guys later.